I'm going to look at a couple of examples dealing with the properties of parallelograms. Now I know we had 6 properties that I talked about in the lesson portion. I'm just going to look at a couple of those properties in my examples. Now this first one asks us to find the measure of 2 angles, and I'm going to start with angle XWZ. I'm just going to highlight it to make it easier for me to see which angle I'm looking for. So there's my angle that I'm looking for. Now think back to those properties of a parallelogram, and one of them said if the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the opposite angles are congruent. Well, that tells me that angle XWZ and angle XYZ are going to have to be congruent. Well, the measure of angle XYZ is the 50 plus 70 in this case, so it's 120 degrees. Therefore, there is the measure of angle XWZ. Now I go to my next one, and I'm looking at for the measure of angle XWY. So now I want to find, let me do this, I'm going to erase all the red, and I'm going to look for the measure of angle XWY. Well, in this case, I'm going to think back to the definition of a parallelogram, and it says it's a quadrilateral with 2 sets of parallel sides. So I know that this side and this side are parallel, and then I'm going to use this as my transversal. And I think back to properties of parallel lines, and if lines are parallel, then the alternate interior angles will be congruent, which in this case, I have a pair of those. That would be this angle, which is 50 degrees, and this one up here, and that's the one that I'm looking for. Therefore, the measure of angle XWY is going to be 50 degrees. That's this one. So there's example 1. Now my next one, again, I have a parallelogram. It tells me that, and I want to find the value of y. Calculate what is it? Well, I look up here and I see that, or not the value of y, the value of a. I see an a here, which is representing the length of a side, and I think back now to the property that tells me that the opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent. Therefore, I know that these 2 sides are congruent, which means these 2 measures are going to be equal. I can set up my equation. I'm going to say 2a equals 30, solve my equation, and I find out that my a has a value of 15, and I have it taken care of. Again, there's just a couple examples of using the properties, setting up equations to help us find things that it asks for. And that's going to conclude my little example portion of properties of parallelograms.